Let's look at Tommy running before and after, and focusing on the three key areas we were looking at working on, which was overstride, heel lift, and the use of the arms in the running action. So if we look at the first one, which was 10 kilometers and 2.5%, the video we didn't get to look at before, we'll look at that left foot. First thing we had was we had an overstride. So overstride means in looking to run maybe faster or more efficiently, we take a longer step. Now, by taking a longer step, it means we're going to be in contact with the ground for a longer time than we would ideally want to, because what we'll end up doing is sinking into the ground and we'll end up braking. And when we're running, we're either in flight mode in the air, stance mode, we're loading one leg, and we're going to get injured on the ground and not on the air. So if we're spending longer time on the ground, it causes our joints to have that opportunity to fall out of alignment, which will affect ankle, knee, shins, hip, and back, which is related to a compensation in this point, which I'll work up the chain. So if we look at the overstride is pinpointed by the gap between the knee. What we were looking for is next to no gap. There may be a little gap, but we're looking ideally next to no gap. All right. So that's what we have on the left. In terms of the body position, we had from that down to that hip, we had that body folding forwards, and that's to compensate for that balance, because we're braking, we're looking to stop. If we were upright, we'd fall backwards, so our body makes that compensation, our brain makes that compensation. And by folding forwards, we switch off the glutes and the hamstrings, which are the power muscles, and therefore we're just using our quads and hip flexors to propel us forwards, where we want to be using the aforementioned hamstrings and glutes. This is inefficient because we are using a long lever. We're in contact with the ground for that period of time, and we're not going to be able to maintain or pick up speed. So that's what we had on the left. If I just highlight as well, whilst we're here, in mid swing, we have a low heel lift, which was the second thing we were looking at. Now, in terms of a heel cycle, this is linked with overstride. The higher we get the heels up, so we want it to come just above the knee crease or higher. So we were working training up to glutes, hamstrings. The more higher we get the heels up, the more we can activate the glutes and the hamstrings first. So they're the power muscles that propel us forward. So it's important that we get the heels up to activate these, and in turn, what happens is the brain will make that connection to land underneath our hips. So that's what we had before. And before, what that also means is because we've got low heel lift, the quad is having to work really hard to brake and take the body weight with it whilst it's in that stance mode. So that's what we had before on the left. Just take these lines out. And then when we got into stance mode on that left point, we got that knee coming over the toe. So we had an excessive knee bend, which just emphasises that sinking into the ground. Okay, so if we look at the right, you can see we're leading on the right with that straight, locked out knee there. So when we came in, again, we had that overstride where we got the gap between the knees. And we've got that same compensation whereby the body is falling forwards. And if we just put that centre line in, we can see where our hip is, okay, where we are positioning. And if I just bring it back to mid-swing, we can see where the heel, again, was lower than the knee crease in that position. As we got to landing, it got a little bit higher. One point I'm going to mention, actually, which I didn't pick up before, so I apologise for that, is that Tommy had a plantar flexion of the foot, so the toes are pointing away, which is going to put pressure on the calf and the Achilles, and that has changed afterwards, and we'll look at that in due course. So that's where we had before. So it's inefficient because with the low heels, as soon as the heels left the ground, and they're soon in contact with it, we were taking that bigger step. Now, if we look at after, and we look at that left foot as it comes in, so we take it to foot strike there. So we can see that we got on that right foot, we got no gap between the knee as it's come into that foot strike position. Angle of the shin is 90 degrees. So when we're coming into position, we're looking to be as perpendicular as we can to the ground. We've got that 89 to 90 degrees in effect, which is excellent, and that's going to help release braking forces going through the knee and the hip. So we've got a quick rebound, sort of soft knee, which is something we worked on a lot in session. If we look at that mid-swing phase of the heel, we've got the heel coming up to glute level. So that is going to be efficient for the following reasons. The landing point is underneath the hip, which means there's fewer braking forces to the running stride. Now Tommy is not spending as much time in the ground as they're landing closer to his centre of body, and he's towing off closer to his centre of body. And also he's using a short lever rather than a long one. So in terms of using that leg as a short lever, the power muscles now, the glutes and the hamstrings, are activated to take that movement forward. Also, if we have a look at the posture, the posture now is absolutely phenomenal. So we can draw a line through Tommy's ear, shoulder, hip, and that's where we were working on that landing point of that position of that foot just ahead of that centre of gravity. So that's a really strong running position. So by being tall, we're now working the core. We're ensuring that those glutes and hamstrings are switched on. So that objective achieved on that right side in terms of eliminating the overstride, increasing that heel cycle. It's a really, really good work. And if we look at the left foot as it comes in, the right foot, sorry, as it comes in. Again, we've got that position whereby we're coming in underneath our hip. So we've got the angle of the shin. Straight on that bottom line of the graph. There, so it's 91 degrees. So again, perpendicular as we come in, so that's a really good position. If we look at the heel in that mid swing, again we're equal. So the line is all but the same as the other foot, whereby it's up to that glute level. So we balanced out the body, which is absolutely brilliant. I mentioned the foot before in terms of before it was pointing, the toes are pointing away. Just look at it as it comes up now. That heel to the sky, toe to the ground. So we're not pointing away. So we're not putting that pressure on the calf and the Achilles in flight mode now. And you can see that foot just leads that circle. So that's a really, really strong position. And again, posturally, in terms of posture, Tommy is nice and tall, where we've got that ear coming through that shoulder and that hip. So really, really good improvement in terms of body posture, and that's as a consequence of the balance improving and body control improving through the dynamic movement skills setup that we have. In terms of leg cycle, we'll carry on with the leg cycle because it just show where we're towing off closer to the body. So if we look at after, I'm just going to put this, I might need to adjust it. The heel will follow the foot. If we look at before, So now Tommy's running style is ensuring that he's able to maintain speed, pick up speed, and also is putting less pressure on the quads in this hill cycle, because the phase that's happening now is there's no braking force coming through. So we can see here on the after how that foot is travelling round that circle. And we see before, as soon as the foot left the ground, it was back in contact. So we've got an increased flight time. So there's Tommy's flight time now after. If we just get that position. So flight time after is nicely up. And we can see before that left flight time was minimal. That as soon as the toe's leaving, the other one is contacting the ground. So it's a really good leg cycle. And the final thing to look at was the arms. So before, the arms were swinging across our body a little bit more, Tommy's body there in terms of chest and torso, not very purposeful. If we look at after, there's evidence of that elbow coming back. I still think it's an area to keep working on, just that hip to shoulder. We've got that elbow coming back, and we've got that little window between the elbow, between the arm and the ribs here. And we've got that light fist now, which is facing the side of his body, and he's coming back to shoulder. As we slow it down, we can see in this footage, again, we've got a really good improvement in terms of a light fist coming up to shoulder, and we've got the elbow coming back, and we can tell that elbow's coming back by the gap between the ribs and the elbow. I think it is something to keep working on, because I think at times it does pause and just stop. So it's just getting that consistency. If you look at the chest position, it is purely facing forwards, whereas before we had more of a rotation with that left shoulder in particular. So all in all, really good improvement from Tommy in those three areas. If you have any questions about any of the videos, please do get in touch. I will also send the other ones as well to you.